To Fourth Coach Conversations, a series from D1Baseball.com. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. I want to say thank you to our presenting sponsor, Netting Professionals. Netting Pros specializes in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for college baseball programs all around the country. Next time your field or facility needs something new, make sure to check out Netting Pros. Those guys are awesome, great supporters of all of baseball, really, but college baseball in particular. So, gentlemen, happy Sunday, happy holidays to everyone. Hope everybody had a good break so far. And yeah, like this is how we roll in baseball. It's the day after Christmas and we're still doing the show. So this is episode 12. This has been an absolute blast. For the uninitiated, what we're doing here, fourth coach conversations, we have this wild thing in college baseball where the fourth coach on the staff is a volunteer, which means these guys can't be paid by their school, can't have benefits. I think probably the biggest hindrance is they can't go off campus and recruit and get their name out there. So, personally, I wanted to get to know these guys. Selfishly, I wanted to use this time to learn more about their backgrounds. These guys are the up-and-comers in our profession. This is the lifeblood of our sport and our profession, and that's what we've done in the previous 11 episodes, and it's been a blast. So I said this a couple episodes ago, guys, and I can't get past this thought. Like, could you imagine if the fourth football coach was a volunteer? I mean, like the fourth football coach probably makes like $1 million a year. And so, oh gosh, I know, Fuj, you were working in a liquor store on Sunday morning. So we had Drew Frederick from Tennessee Tech that's working at Chick-fil-A in the morning. So I told the story. My mom was sending me $60 a month for groceries, which was kind of funny and old school. But anyway, we digress. So, boys, let's jump right in here because this time will fly by. What I want to do is we'll go around the horn. Shu, we'll start with you. Give us your name, introduce yourself, and your background, where you're from, where you played, where you've coached, where you are now, and how long you've been there. Go ahead, Shu.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on here. My name's Tyler Shoemaker. I am currently at Vanderbilt University. I played at Kentucky Wesleyan College in Owensboro, Kentucky, Division II. Originally from Southern Indiana, a small town called Corden, Indiana. I'm actually back home for the holidays, so that's been great to be back home with family. My family still lives here. It's about 20 miles east of Louisville, Kentucky, so right across the river. About 3 hours from Nashville now. After I played at Kentucky Wesleyan, I ended up coaching there for a year. Was thankful that the head coach there, Todd Lilpop, asked me to be a student assistant there. Got paid nothing, did lessons, got into coaching that way. After 1 year there, ended up going to a summer league in North Carolina in the Coastal Plain League called the Fayetteville Swamp Dogs. Was able to be a coach there for a summer. And while I was there, I just was calling around trying to find pitchers for the second part of the summer because we were about out of pitching. And the closest Division I was Campbell University. I called those guys, and they didn't have any pitchers, but they did have an open coaching position. And so got to talking to those guys, talked to their pitching coach, Chris Marks, who ended up saying, yeah, we have a director of baseball operations job open. I didn't know what that entailed. I had no idea. It was a part-time job, got me into Division I baseball. I didn't play Division I. I didn't get drafted, but knew I needed to get in if I wanted to get in. So jumped into that position. It's not glamorous. It's behind the scenes, doing the laundry, doing the equipment, booking the trips, making sure 40 guys plus coaches are fed, all that kind of stuff. Was able to do that for a year, and then we had an assistant leave and go to Louisiana Lafayette, and then Coach Hare, the head coach at Campbell, asked me, "Hey, do you want to get back on the field?" And I jumped right on that. Was the fourth coach there for a year, and then after that year, Coach Marks went to Purdue, and then Coach Hare, the head coach, elevated me again to a recruiting coordinator position. So I was able to be at a recruiting coordinator position at the Division I level. And then this summer, after 2 years as the RC at Campbell University, I was out recruiting, and somebody said, "Hey, I put your name in for the Vanderbilt job." And I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that it was SEC baseball. Obviously, a great coaching staff, a great town, a great place to be. And sure enough, a couple days later, I got the job. I got the job on August 2nd. By August 5th, I had moved all my stuff from North Carolina to Nashville, and now I'm happily at Vanderbilt, helping run the offense, helping with the recruiting piece as much as I can, and then in control of the catchers and the base running.
Love it. So, Shu, let me fire a couple of follow-up questions at you. So, Campbell is a fascinating program to me. I mean, you guys have kind of in the most recent era written the book on being a mid-major. I mean, 3 straight NCAA tournaments, if I'm not mistaken. Last year, you guys were an at-large bid, and I'm sure it wasn't comfortable for you guys, but fairly comfortable if you think about it. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't see many discussions where Campbell was on the bubble. I mean, you guys were pretty much in, but you got to be the RC there. So I'm curious, for a place like Campbell, what was how do you become like how do you separate yourself as a mid-major? I'm curious from the recruiting standpoint.
I think our biggest thing at Campbell was finding the right type of guys that fit that mid-major chip on their shoulder type of guy. And I think you go find those guys. Our kind of mold was going to find the best junior college guys in the country, because a lot of guys don't grow up as a high school kid saying, "Hey, I really want to go to Campbell University," especially in North Carolina where you have 19 Division Ones. And so you have to go find those guys at every part of the country that do have a chip on their shoulder, that maybe are a little rough around the edges, but can really play baseball and understand the motive behind a place like Campbell of, hey, we want to be that mid-major that does turn the chapter, that people do see get to Omaha and are like, man, who are the Camels? Who are they from North Carolina, middle of nowhere, Bowie's Creek? And I think if you can present that to them in the recruiting pitch of like, hey, we're going to have a chip on our shoulder. Nobody's going to really know us, but we're going to go into UNC. We're going to go into Duke. We're going to go into these blue chip programs midweek, and we're going to compete with those guys. And then ultimately at the end of the year, we're going to have a shot to get an at-large bid. Then they love it, But I think it's really finding your niche of the right junior college players, because you're not going to get the best high school player in the country. It's just not going to happen. So finding the right type of guys that fit that mold was huge for us.
Awesome. So let me ask you the obvious question about going to Vandy, Shoe, which I'm sure you've been asked a million times. It's so funny. I put a thread on Twitter Christmas Day about teams with 5 or more future big leaguers, and Vandy Brooks Webb put on there that Vandy's had 5 or more big leaguers on every roster since 2005. Through 2016, because 2017 it's too soon, right? Like I'm sure they had 5 or more big leaguers, they just haven't got there yet. So when you think about what you were expecting, you've only been there, the last several months, but what has jumped out at you? Maybe that's the best way to ask it, since you've been at Vandy live and in person.
I think the biggest thing is one, the biggest thing I've learned since I've been there is just having a relationship with people. It's not even about the baseball player at Vanderbilt. It's about having the relationship with the person. And that goes as the best player that we have, to guy 40 on our roster, to the janitor that cleans our locker room. Like, those relationships are so important. But from coaching those guys, you really find out that they're so professional in their work that you almost come in and yeah, you can have a plan and you can have something in sequence and be ready to jump in and coach them, but they know what they need, because they know what felt really well or what felt bad the day before, and then you can build on that. But also, I think it's buying into, getting them to trust you and making them understand that I'm there for them, especially from the catching side. For me, I'm with those guys every day, and we don't have a ton of experience behind the plate going into this year. So just jumping in and showing them enjoyment in the position and that I'm there for them has been the biggest piece for me, is because it is easier for me. I'm single. I'm not married. I don't have any kids, anything like that. Where the rest of the coaches, they have that. They have families. They have different things that do pull their time away. So being able to be that coach that says, hey, if you need extra time in the cage, or you need extra time working on receiving, or whatever it might be, that I'm there for them at their disposal, really.
Love that. Really cool. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Mike. Thanks. Josh Merrigan from Radford University, Radford, Virginia. As Division One, I was in the Big South Conference. This has probably been a while since I talked about myself, but like I said, I grew up in the Midwest. Kind of Vermilion, South Dakota is where I was from. Really just played baseball during the summer. Toward my later years, junior, senior years, when they started to say kind of get fall baseball going more. But went to a junior college out of high school in Kansas, Butler County Community College. Loved it there, loved the experience. Obviously, only a 2-year deal, and then went to Oklahoma State for the next 2 years. So at the end of the day, I'm a diehard Poke fan. Go Pokes, pretty much in everything. So went there for 2 years. Was lucky enough, as a goal was always to play professionally. I got to play professionally for about 4 or 5 years. So that was, something I always set out to do. And much like when things are, your career is over, the next step is what to do. So, I did some other jobs, obviously like a 9-to-5 job, banking jobs, things like that. At the end of the day, was not me, So I obviously like the office work, but half of me really likes to be outside and kind of be in the dirt and obviously like on the baseball field. So for about 10 years, I kind of did my thing during the summer, coach teams. Started a couple programs like in Midwest. Did obviously in the Midwest Legion baseball is a big deal. Was kind of like entrenched in that for about 10 years and then just running programs, helping kind of like facilitate them. And then, I think it just kind of ran its course. I obviously wanted to get into college baseball, wanted to get into the coaching aspect. Spent time at a junior college, NAIA, Division II, Division I. And then, I even coached in the summer league. There's kind of things that I kind of said I wanted to do, the experiences. And then this is my 3rd year here at Radford. So at Radford, obviously run the camps, much like some of these other guys on here do. Run that. I kind of had my hands in all of it the last couple of years. I work with the outfielders, assist with the hitting, but have kind of just lent a hand, I guess, wherever I've been kind of needed. So I really like the opportunity to be able to do that. Our head coach, Coach Kuhn, has given me the opportunity to do that and to kind of run with things from a coaching aspect, and that's how you learn. Honestly, that's probably the biggest thing I've taken away is that even where I'm at today, you still learn things every day, and you have to be able to get things across to today's players. I guess I don't use the phrase, and I hate the phrase when people say, back in my day, when I was playing. No, I don't like saying that, because I don't like saying how I was, almost 20 years ago, because it doesn't resonate today. So, but I like, obviously love where I'm at. Coach Kuhn's a great guy to work for. Got a great staff. And just really happy about this kind of year 3 getting going.
Perfect. Hey, so Josh, the Oklahoma State, did you pitch for Tom Holliday and Frank Anderson, or which of the staffs did you get to play for?
So I got to pitch for Tom Holliday. Was a great guy. My pitching coach was John Farrell.
Right.
And then the another guy on the staff was Robbie Wine. So much like I guess you kind of flip things. Obviously talk to Coach Holliday as much as possible, but the head coaches at times aren't there. And you always wonder, where's this guy at? What's he doing? Things like that. Now that you see the other side of it, well, he's out there doing all the things that you need to be successful. He's, he's trying to raise money. He's trying to, make this place a better place on and off the field. So obviously I think, you deal with your position coach, and it's more position oriented. I think even now these days. So, it was a great experience to play there. Honestly, you always look back and would you do the same thing? Honestly, 100%. 100%. I'd go to a junior college again. I'd go to that place again for sure.
Love that. Really cool. Curbs, go ahead.
My name's Ryan Kirby. Grew up in Livermore, California. It's about 50 miles east of San Francisco. Played ball at University of San Diego for 3 years. Was drafted by the Giants in the 12th round in 2016. I played for them for about 3.5 years. After I was released, I went back to school, finished up my degree. While I was there, Coach Hill, who's the head coach at the University of Hawaii now, asked me if I could be an undergrad assistant coach. So while I was there, finished my degree, I was coaching up with him. That's how I met Brock Ungrich. So while I was there, it was a pandemic shortened year, so we played 16 games. I got a little taste of the coaching experience. Definitely a good time, good deal for me coming off of just being released. You don't know what to do. It was nice to be able to kind of get in some coach and see what it's like. Brock, he always encouraged me. Hey, I know you're going to coach someday. I know you're going to keep on coaching. And I got hooked. I was always kind of a guy that wanted to coach growing up, but I just kind of had to see what it was like. And once I did, I was like, okay, I think this is what I want to do. So once the pandemic hit and the season was over, I ended up selling wine for about a year. I was like, okay, well, I need to get a job, make a little bit of money. When Brock got the head job, about, a year later at USD, I called him up right away. I was like, hey, I need to get back into this. This is what I want to do. I'm going to go all in. So now I'm there. It's my first year as a volunteer, working with the hitters and the infielders, and it's a freaking great time. Love doing it. So I'm happy to be there.
Love it. So, Curbs, you growing up in Northern California, was USD on your radar in high school, or was it like you kind of found out about it through recruiting?
It's funny. My dad, when I was in high school, he asked me, hey, make up a list of schools where you want to go. And I don't know why, but USD was on that list. And I don't know if I remember seeing them play in a regional, but for some reason I picked 10, 15 schools and USD was on it. We sent out an email to a bunch of schools, and they were one of them to respond right away. And I was like, whoa, it's funny how it worked out that they happened to be on my list of schools, and I ended up going there. I do have family that lives in Southern California, so the Southern California schools were on my radar, but I can't really tell you why they were on my list from the get-go, but they were, and that's where I ended up.
And you did not play with Chris Bryant, right? You just missed him?
No, yeah, just missed him. He was drafted the year before I got there.
Gotcha. Of the three teams you played on at USD, was there one that kind of stood out from the three as far as what you guys accomplished?
My sophomore year, we won the regular season conference championship in the WCC. We had a really good team. We couldn't get it done in the tournament, so we didn't make a regional. But that was the best year I had while I was there.
And any of the guys that you played with at USD have gotten to the big leagues yet, or not yet?
Yeah, we have Kyle Holder, Connor Joe, Riley Adams just got up this past year. I know PJ Conlin got a little taste up there for a bit. So there's good amount of guys that have played in the big leagues I played with there.
And Connor Joe is catching in pro ball, or because he played first base at USD, right?
Yeah, he's kind of moved around. I don't think he's caught much in the big leagues. I know he's played a lot of outfield with the Rockies. He got his call up with the Giants, a little bit. So he's kind of had a wild ride, but I know he's played more outfield than anything, I believe. A little bit of first base too with the Rockies as well.
And Kyle Holder is the guy, like, I think his story, if I've got it right, is pretty fascinating. Like, he was like a junior college hoops player or something.
Yeah.
Comes to your guys' place and is just like this uber athlete. You guys throw him at short, and next thing you know, he's the Yankees' first round pick as a shortstop.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that first fall, you get out there and you're like, whoa, this kid's athletic. He had all the potential, and all of a sudden the season hit. You're like, okay, what's he going to do? And just unbelievable. He's still the best shortstop I've ever played with, and I got to play first base for him. So I got to catch all of his throws in practice, do all that. He is unbelievable.
And is he still with the Yankees, or did he get traded?
He's bounced around. I think he's with maybe the Phillies. The Phillies are the Reds now.
Gotta love it. Oh, that's all. Yeah, I loved his story. Can you imagine just being that athletic? That I guess I'll try baseball and be a first round pick. What the heck? I'll do this.
It's unbelievable.
That's awesome. Very cool. Fuj, go ahead.
Devin Fujioku. I'm the volunteer at Austin Peay University here in Clarksville, Tennessee. I grew up in a really small ranching town in Hawaii. From there, went to a junior college in California. After my 2 years there, finished my undergrad degree and 2 years of eligibility at Mount Mercy University in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. NAI school. Not drafted, very, very average to below average player. No professional experience, but after I graduated, I really felt a calling to coaching. Really, the story of how I got into coaching is the person who was hired after my senior year. His name is Jack Dom. I was living in Cedar Rapids at the time, working as a indoor or outdoor custom pool builder. And I called him, I emailed him, showed up at his office 2 to 3 times a week for 7 months in a row, and until he ultimately gave me a chance. Got on fall of 2014, kind of worked my way up. No pay, lessons, just grinding that whole thing out. January of 2019, I got an opportunity to go out to Northern Colorado to be the volunteer there. After the spring of 2019, there was a full-time position that came open at Mount Mercy. I got to be a full-time assistant, RC, hitting coach. 2020, the COVID year, and then last year, 2021. And this summer, Austin Peay had an opportunity, jumped on it, got here last week of August, and I've enjoyed every minute since.
All right, Fuj, couple of questions. So you have a connection to Colton Wong, is that correct?
Yeah, so he's 1 year older than me. During high school, I trained with his dad. His dad runs a small little academy, so weekends, weekdays during the summer, I'd drive 45 minutes to an hour each way to hit ground balls, games. Yeah, kind of neat.
That's awesome. Was it maybe you were too young, but I just remember when Colton committed to University of Hawaii, it feels like that's been the exception, not the rule. It feels like a lot of the guys from the island want to at least go to the mainland and give it a shot, and then they might come back. But a player of his stature, I mean, he could have gone anywhere and was a big draft risk. But was that a big deal in Hawaii when he chose to play for the University of Hawaii out of high school?
Oh, for sure. That was at a time where it was hard for Hawaii kids to get recruited. Definitely. It was hard. It was hard for Hawaii kids to get recruited. There wasn't a whole lot of exposure. He was kind of the exception to that. Perfect Game had just started to do some events out there, and I was too young to kind of understand the ins and outs of it. But now that I'm on the other side of it, kind of looking back and going through that history, very, very neat deal for him.
That's awesome. Hey, is there okay? So this is there may be no answer to this question. I'm gonna ask it. Is there anything in Clarksville, Tennessee, that reminds you of home?
Cool. Maybe the fact that it's warm on December 26th.
Nice. There you go. I didn't realize that. That's good. That'll work.
Outside of that, it's after living in a few different parts of the country, the initial culture shock is kind of gone, and everywhere, from living in Hawaii to on the West Coast to the Midwest, and now in the South, it's, every region of the country is special things, and just kind of learning to adapt and integrate yourself into whatever area you're in.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it, man. Baseball makes the world smaller. I love it.
Absolutely.
Cool. Holden, go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me. My name's Holden White. I'm a volunteer assistant at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, in the Ivy Leagues. Originally from Wallingford, Connecticut. I played 2 years at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And then I transferred to Eastern Connecticut State University, obviously in Connecticut. Did 3 years there, graduated this past spring, coached summer ball in the Futures League for the Norwich Sea Unicorns. And then ultimately got a shot at working at Brown with a great coaching staff. So I think I knew I wanted to get into coaching. I was fortunate enough to be around some really good coaches at Wake, and Matt Hobbs, Tom Walter, Billy Salento, and then Joey Hammond, who's now the High Point head coach, and then also at Eastern with Brian Hammond. And I think that having all those guys guide me to help me decide to get into coaching. It's really interesting because I just graduated this past spring. So my connection with a lot of our players is like I understand what they're going through with like social media, the pandemic, getting your season canceled, stuff like that. So it's definitely a unique aspect that I can bring. I help with the outfielders, or I work with the outfielders, and then I assist with the pitching and the hitting because at Wake Forest, I was a pitcher, and then I lived every pitcher's dream. And at Eastern, I became a first baseman position player, so I got to hit.
Love that. Hey, so Holden, let me ask you this. So, what I read about you is you're 6'6", you're left-handed, and you were kind of a low slot lefty on the
Yes.
mound. Is that correct? Was that? Did you show up to Wake like that, or is that something you and Matt Hobbs worked on? Was changing your slot a little bit?
So I didn't arrive at Wake like that. I actually took my labor my senior year of high school before I got to Wake Forest, and then was like completely behind everything. And Haas and I had talked about lowering my arm slot and stuff. So him and I actually worked a lot that fall on doing that. So.
And were you able to throw kind of pain-free from there compared to what you were dealing with
I
your
actually
shoulder?
tore my labrum in my right shoulder. I was diving back into a base my senior year, and I completely popped it out. But yeah, they don't really tell you about the mental part of coming back from an injury. So it really wasn't the same. And then when I went back to Eastern, my shoulder was all good. So decided to hit again. So.
Oh, cool. So in theory, you might have considered hitting at Wake, but you couldn't because of the shoulder. It wasn't
I probably would have.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. Like Matt Hobbs, I think is obviously, one of the, premier pitching coaches in the country. And when you were at Wake, though, it feels like, he was a forerunner in the area of analytics and the pitching lab and a bazillion cameras and all that stuff. What was that like to take in as a freshman? Was it overwhelming, or was Coach Hobbs able to ease you guys into that?
So the pitching lab in the new facility wasn't finished until halfway through my freshman year. So, I mean, I remember Walt bringing us into the old locker room and then telling us to pack all our stuff up and walk over to the new facility and stuff. And it was amazing. I mean, it's a top-notch facility, probably one of the best in the country. But the way Hobbs integrated technology with still being able to pitch and pitchability and stuff was phenomenal. He kind of knew the balance with each guy. I think some guys were different. Some guys needed more technology, and other guys needed to stay away from it. I remember Parker Dunshee, our Friday guy. He was also my throwing partner. He was into the technology, but it wasn't something that he relied on. He was more of a competitor than anything. But yeah, that 2017 Wake team was pretty special. I mean, there's already 2 big leaguers from it, so play with some good guys.
And if my math's right, you guys take Florida to Game 3 of a Super Regional the same year that they win the national championship.
Yeah, it was crazy seeing Singer pitch and Coar and Faedo. I mean, that was a battle. That series is probably the highlight of my baseball career. I'll be honest with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, hey, who were the big leaguers from that Wake team that are already gone up?
Gavin Sheets with the White Sox, and then Stuart Fairchild with the Diamondbacks.
Fairchild, that's right. Love it. Very cool. Good stuff, boys. All right, Shu, I'm coming back to you. So let's do this. So what I want you guys to do is pick an area of the game that you're really passionate about. Hitting, team offense, catching, pitching, whatever you want. Pick an area of the game you're really passionate about, and give me your core beliefs in 3 sentences or less. So core beliefs, 3 sentences or less. Go ahead, Shu.
Yeah, so I'll just do I'll do catching, since that's kind of what I'm over at Vanderbilt. Number 1, we got to have a culture behind the plate. Number 2, I think that receiving is always going to be king. Number 3, we want to be able to receive out of our blocking and throwing stance, or we got to be able to block and throw out of a receiving stance, not receive out of our blocking and throwing stance. So essentially, we don't want to give up the receiving aspect to be a better blocker and thrower. I think we got to be able to do the other 2, because we receive every pitch, and that's where we can change the game the most. And so being able to adapt our stance, our setup, to be able to block and throw out of that stance is going to be the most crucial part of the game.
Love that. So Shu, I love what you just said there. Like, cause I'm not currently a buyer of the one knee stance with a runner at third base. I'm still struggling with that. Just, full disclosure. But I liked what you said there. We receive every pitch. But gosh, that's still that freaks me out that we're So here's how I'm going to phrase the question. I want to know who sold you on this, or what convinced you, because I do struggle that we're trading a potential runner at third scoring on a pass ball to steal some low strikes. So what was the compelling evidence for you that because you seem very convicted, which I love.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is where did I get it started? I think I got it started by just talking to professional coaches that are in the professional ranks of Major League Baseball that are really buying into the knee down setups and different setups. It doesn't always have to be knee down. I think that we can be on 2 feet, but maybe we cheat to a knee and do different things within the setup to help steal that low strike. Every pitch has a strike probability. And if we can increase that, then we're doing our job behind the plate. But, I think at the end of the day, we still have to be able to block out of those stances. I agree with you. And I think if we can train that daily and really show guys that they can get side to side laterally from those stances, that they can buy in. So what made me buy in is being able to show those guys that they can still do it in those stances and still be an elite receiver. Now, on the throwing aspect, I did like a little study with at Campbell while I was there. I say study, it wasn't really a study. It was more to show the guys that we can still get to a good pop time from that knee down stance. And every time we did it, they were better at throwing from a knee down than they were with 2 feet. So it was more of a buy-in. It wasn't like a scientific study, anything like that. It was more of, hey, just to show them that they have the confidence to do it. But blocking aspect, we like to do. I like to show guys like with a resistance band that they can get out side to side. If I pull them the other way and they can get out that far with me pulling them, then they can do it without me pulling them. It's more of a confidence thing at that point and a want to. And I think really telling a guy what does constitute a good block? A good block is a guy who doesn't advance 90 feet.
Yeah.
If we can do that, it doesn't matter if it bounces off our glove, our belly button, our chest, our mask, whatever it might be. If he doesn't advance 90 feet, then we did our job.
I love it. Guys, so funny when you're just talking Shu, at the coach in me is like, all I care about is blocking the ball with a runner at third base. And I'm asking you to sell me, but the people that you really have to sell, which are your catchers, what they really care about is the throwing. That, like, I almost literally spit my drink out when you said that. Like, that was a million miles from my brain. I love that you just said that.
They love it, right? Like,
yeah,
because whenever a guy goes to a showcase nowadays, what do they get graded on? They get graded on the throwing, right? So everybody wants to throw somebody out. Everybody loves that. But I tell our guys, and I've told every catcher that I've ever coached this or give a lesson to, like, you're best whenever you're not noticed.
Yeah.
Because if you're not noticed, then you're doing your job. Because you get noticed on the throw out or the big block. And you don't get noticed on the pitch that's 2 inches outside that you just made a strike.
Yeah. See, now you're speaking to the coach in me. I like that. That's good. Very good. Josh, go ahead. Give me an area, core beliefs, 3 sentences or less.
So there's a couple areas that I'm obviously passionate about, but obviously at Radford, I work with the outfielders. I would say the biggest thing we talk about and use 3 sentences, I just use like this phrase all the time. We need to play fast, and play fast again. For the simple fact that, our field is turf. We just got turf on our field this past February. The conference, the Big South, and more teams that we play on turf. Okay. So we need to, I think, train our guys. I think you need to train just players in general, how to play on that and the overall speed. The speed of the game is something that's drastically, I think, getting faster every year. But from a high school kid to college, it is night and day, the speed of it. Okay. Obviously, being on the flip side, I coach first base. So I am hounding guys to get the extra base, take the extra base. Yep. Right. So from an outfield perspective, one, we have to make sure that the overall fundamentals are being done correctly. But nothing excites me more than a ball hit down our line. Our guy does a reverse pivot. That thing one hops to second base and everything shut down. And that guy rounds the base hard and then almost has a dive back to first base. Right. So those are the things we work on. We work on the plays that are the basic plays have to be done at the 100% level all the time. because that's what's going to, basically happen. 3/4, obviously each ball hit to you, and it's 3/4 of the time is going to be a basic play. So we harp on the fundamentals, and we harp on playing fast, and basically, I'm much like, I think I don't give away too many secrets, but I think we do one day where it's like a hitter, like it's all doubles, everything's double. Right, run it out, and then so we have guys throwing other people out of second base all the time, and we want to make that be game like, So, and I think the kind of what Coach Hugh said. I think if the outfield position at the end of the day, if they don't, I tell my guys, if they don't really talk about you, you did your job, because we caught the baseball, we threw the ball in, we didn't give away extra bases, right? We played catch, and at the end of the day, I mean, you have to play clean baseball. So.
Yeah.
I think if the outfielders, like I said, at the end of the day, nothing really done by the outfield, that's great, because you know what? They didn't really hurt the team, and they actually helped the team.
Love that. Really cool. That's good. Curbs, go ahead.
So I'll talk about hitting. Hitting, I could talk about hitting for hours. So I'll try to keep this as simple as as simple as I can. But so I'll just go into, there's mechanics, and you got your approach, right? So when we talk about mechanics, I try to break it down into two different areas. So you got before launch position, after launch position, right? So before launch position, that's your load, that's your gather, that's what you're doing to get yourself ready to hit. I tell you guys, it's how do we get our body in a good position to deliver the barrel to the baseball as efficiently as possible. So we get our body in a good launch position, then we have a clean, efficient swing. So once we do get in that good launch position, then I go into the hand path. How are we going to deliver the baseball to the ball as efficiently as possible? And for every guy, that can be different cues, whatever that is. But once we're in that good position, then we can get on plane. We get that barrel in the zone as long as we can. And we like to focus on using our hands to do that, right? If we use our shoulders, we use our body, that's when things can get messed up, right? So once we have those two things there, we got before launch, after launch, then I can go into approach. And when we can trust our swing, then it's easy to, think about the game, right? So we have some guys that, like to think in the box and say, hey, let's give you some simple cues, some simple thoughts, so you don't overthink things. Then you got guys that think too much, and you go, okay, hey, let's talk about a routine to kind of get you out of your head a little bit. But those are the three things. You got mechanics, approach. Mechanics, it's before and after launch, and then your approach is kind of an individualized type of deal.
Curbs, when you get a new player on campus, is the fall the time where the approach discussion begins if I'm like a freshman in your program? Or is that like you're going to spend so much time with me on those two areas of the swing that maybe we don't even get to approach until the spring?
Yeah, so for us, we have a pretty set team approach that, can take a little bit for our guys to get used to. So we dive right into that, right away. But when we talk about our launch position and our mechanics, it all kind of blends in with our approach. But definitely when we get freshmen on campus, it's, we dive right into approach, because, it's a team approach. It's not, professional baseball. Hey, I'm just going to get mine, try to hit homers, right? We're trying to help the team win. So we get that right into them right away as soon as they get on campus.
Love it. Really cool. Fuj, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about hitting as well. I think for me and for our program, ultimately we start at what we're trying to get on game day, which is I'm producing the most amount of runs as possible, and we kind of work backwards from there. I think it can be likened to, building a race car for race day, where, you got to build the engine. Bat speed matters. Adjustability matters. We're looking for horsepower. We're looking for efficient transmissions. We're looking for brakes. We're looking for steering. So kind of building the engine there. Then the second part to that would be, building the driver, and that's the decision-making part of it. Decision-making meaning strike versus ball, swing versus no swing, really helping guys to understand where they're at, where their horsepower best plays in the zone, where certain guys need to take in certain parts. And, I think all that kind of goes into building the driver to learn how to drive the car that shows up on game day. And I think
Love
the
it.
third point would be kind of just creating an environment to where you're creating situations where guys do have to make decisions. Like that's what happens on game day. You celebrate things like exit velo. You celebrate good movements. You celebrate just good swings. You allow guys to fail. The practice, group work, teamwork, practice for us, like there is some failure involved in that. I think that's where coaching comes into play. I think that's where relationships with individual players come into play. So yeah.
Hey, Fuj, so I love what you just talked about there as far as like really helping the player understand, their best zones, their best swing, their best movements, those types of things. Are you one that believes in like, hey, use a basketball analogy, like, hey, you're going to be a distribute the ball guy, you're going to be a 3-point shooter, you're going to be a post player. Is that like is the identity, like the pack system when you've got the ball player, you got what I'm saying? Is that part of what you believe, or is it more let's just focus on the best version of this player, let's not encumber them with a category identity?
Yeah, I yes and no to both of those things, Runes. I think over the course of 4 years or 2 years, like players can evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Younger players can come in and their best version of them at 18 years old might be, the basketball analogy, like pass it off and try to move the ball around. And by the time they're a 21-year-old senior, their role might change.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good, man. Really good. Good. Holden, go ahead.
I'll do. I guess I'll do some pitching.
Yeah, let's go. Drop the
So
slot and we're ready to rock. What else
yeah,
are we gonna
yeah,
talk about? Nah, just kidding.
nothing else. So like for us at Brown, I also work with our pitchers and close with our pitching coach Chris Tilton. And one thing that we have really cerebral kids, obviously in the Ivy League, who like to think and overthink. But
Mm-hmm.
we try to keep it simple for them. And then and our ultimate what him and I have decided is we use present, attack, compete. So if you can stay within those three things and master those three things, that's all you should be thinking about on the mound. And we kind of prepare each week and each bullpen and stuff like that to ultimately end at compete. So if you're mentally present, then you're able to attack with your best stuff, and then at the end of the day, you compete, and that's all that we care about is being able to get out there and give it your best. It's tough. We don't have a pitching lab like we do at Wake, so there's not as much mechanical talk. It's mostly go out there and give us your best stuff. There is some video and stuff like that, but as long as we can get the kids to just be present, obviously attack, and then at the end of the day, whatever the results are, if you were good in your process, then you should be able to live with it. So
Holden, let me ask you this follow-up question. I think it's so interesting. The best baseball players of all time, what they feel
mhm.
is often, or let me say it this way, how they describe what they feel is often different than what's actually happening. If you're watching A-Rod hit, the
Mhm.
way he describes it is different than what your eyes are telling. Are the Ivy League kids the same way? Like, these are the brightest humans on the earth. Does what they feel is happening still differ from what's happening, or because they're so smart, they're able to connect those two dots a little bit quicker?
I think it's they differ.
Yeah.
These kids, I've like I wouldn't say I'm the brightest person in the world, but these kids are definitely some of the highest level thinking kids I've ever been around.
Sure.
And they need to know why. I think that's
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm.
big thing, is why this is happening, why is that happening,
Yeah.
and then it can become very mechanical for us. And if we could just get them out there and be like, just pitch,
Yeah.
then they're at their best, because they do need to have the answer to why. And I
Yeah.
think that's a generation thing too. When I finished playing, I was asking why a lot as well.
Yeah.
Like why didn't my swing look like that or feel like that? So I think that the more you're able to just get them to get out there and not be in their own way, is the best.
Yeah. Love it. Very good. All right, Shu, I'm coming back to you. So some of you guys have only been where you are for the last few months of the fall, but here's the question. give me a player to watch in 2022. Doesn't have to be your best player. Could be a player that you really enjoyed working with this fall, a player that stuck out this fall. Could be the first guy on your roster, could be the 30th guy on your roster. Give me a name that I should write down and keep an eye on. Go ahead, Shu.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit biased on this and say Dominic Keegan.
Mm-hmm.
He played first base all of last year. Was drafted in the 17th round, I think, by the Yankees. Decided to come back to school. He's moving back to that catcher role. Really excited to see how it comes out. The bat really plays. He's going to be middle of the order type bat. He was a second team All-American last year, second team preseason All-American this year, I think. But if he can really control it behind the plate, he's going to have a big year. And then he's number one. The obvious choice would be Enrique Bradfield Jr., center fielder. I'm again
runs
biased.
fairly well.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best players in college baseball, but he's also a better person, and that's the difference between those two guys, is that they're just such great people. They're in the cage every day. They want to get better. But I'm going to say Dominic because I've got to work with him this fall and really help him on his catching aspect, and I think he's going to have a big year.
I love it. Josh, go ahead.
I would say on our team, David Bryant. He's a senior shortstop playing for us. I've been around David the past 3 years. A really good kid, wants to work. I think he's wanted to work harder every year. Okay, so I think once you realize where you can go, right, you realize how much work you have to put in. Had a great summer. Just kind of turned the corner. I think all of a sudden it just happens like one day. You know what I mean? Like I think maybe all of us could say that from either coaching or from playing, that all of a sudden it just clicks. And last year it kind of just clicked for him, and just became a really steady player for us. Defensively, started playing downhill more. Obviously, just went and attacked the baseball like you're supposed to do from the shortstop position, and it just has a nice swing. Can hit the ball to all fields, and really had a great summer. And I think honestly, it's just the confidence. I think you become a different player when your confidence level just kind of goes to the next level, right? I mean, you might have had maybe average tools, average arm, right? But when you have confidence, all of a sudden that ball comes out a little bit better, right? Or the ball gets hit, to the gaps more. So I think it's just the confidence and just the way he carries himself now. He knows he belongs, and just excited to coach him one more year.
Love it. Curbs, go ahead.
Yeah, for us, I think it's going to be Jack Costello this year. He was a freshman All-American last year. It's the first time I got to meet him this year being at USD, and right away he starts picking my brain. Ask me questions. What was my routine? What did I do when I played? And when you see a guy come up to you right away and he's not afraid to ask questions, for me, that's a telltale sign of, if the guy gets it or not, right? So seeing that, his work ethic, he's always in the cage. The guys love him. He's a leader on the team. And I think things are going in the right direction for him, where it's going to take off, even more than it was last year, right? So, I mean, I'm real excited to watch him play.
Give us his profile, Curbs, like what position, what part of the order?
Yeah, he's a left fielder, be middle of the order guy, gap to gap
right-handed
power,
hitter?
Right-handed hitter, gap to gap power, good contact, great approach up there. He's a beast with 2 strikes, gets in the ground, is not afraid to compete. He's a guy you want on your team. He's a guy that when other teams face him, where it's like he's that pesky guy, you're like, God, we got to face him again, because he's never an easy out. Every
Awesome.
at bat, it's fun to watch.
Good stuff. Fuj, go ahead.
For me, I'd have to say it's our catcher, Jack Alexander. He's a junior right-handed hitter. Last year, looking at stats, video, he had a good year last year. Just kind of watching his growth throughout the fall. I'm a pretty firm believer that every good team has a good guy behind the plate. In the locker room, he's got maturity, he's got leadership ability. I really, my hope for him is that this spring, the work that he's put in, he's naturally a confident kid, but I think he's a confident kid because he knows that he's invested time in the work. So he'll be a middle of the order type bat for us. he's really, really embraced some of the hitting ideas that we've brought. The work is there. It's every single day. It's asking questions. It's finding different ways to challenge himself. It really, really neat seeing a kid who is willing to go in on his own and make the environment really, really difficult.
Beautiful.
So neat kid, maturity, the sort of guy that you'd want your daughters to marry, and I'm glad I get to be around him every day.
Really cool. Good. Holden, go ahead.
So for us, it would be our right-handed pitcher, Bobby Olson. The fact that our guys haven't played the last 2 seasons, he was able to really change his body in the weight room and stuff like that. Had quite a few LBs and stuff. And this summer he pitched in the Coastal Plains League, only had 1 outing and was injured. So we didn't really get to see him this fall. But then his first fall outing, he was 95, 97, and it's pretty electric. So
Wow.
Yeah, he'd be one to definitely look at. I think he's a great kid, great background, obviously super smart kid. But the baseball's I think the COVID and the pandemic has really helped him mature into his body and then his game as well. Kid that's the first one at the field every day, always asking questions. Yeah, he's a really good one. So
excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Shu, coming back to you. Here's what I'm going to do. I want you to, this could be from your playing days or coaching. I want you to pick an aspect of an opponent that you've competed against that really stands out. Like I might say Florida State's offensive approach. I might say Cal State Fullerton's culture, Cal State Fullerton's pitching, whatever it is. Long Beach State, the way they attack with fastball or whatever. So give me an aspect of an opponent that someday when you're a head coach, you're thinking, man, I'd like to take this part of their program with me. Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing is every time we played East Carolina when we were at Campbell, they just do everything right. They have a bunch of scrappy guys. They're not the most physical team that walks out to the ball field, but they do everything right from a defensive standpoint. They mix around. They have some two-way players that'll jump from third base to pitch to back to shortstop, and so that's a part of if I'm ever a head coach that I will pull from. The fact that they're very hard-nosed, they do everything right. Their shifting in the infield is really, really good, and I've got to know some of their coaching staff a little bit through the years, and just the way that they kind of work together on the pitch plan versus the defensive shifting. I feel like they were in the position every time in the I guess that was 2019 regional when we were when I was at Campbell and we played at East Carolina and we played them on the Monday for the championship. Every ball that we hit, they were in the right position,
Yeah.
So I'll take that with me wherever
Perfect.
I go. It's kind of that hard-nosed, that communication piece that they have, and really just the fact that they get the most out of their players. They're not, like I said, they're not the most physical, but if you look at a lineup card after East Carolina plays, like I don't want to be keeping the book. I'll tell you that. I don't want to be the official scorer because they got guys going all over the place, and I think that's just getting the most out of their players.
Good stuff. Very good. Josh, go ahead.
I would say probably the most common opponent that we've played the last couple of years has been Liberty. I mean, we just had a chance to play them quite a bit. They are. I mean, probably everybody knows that I don't think they're a team you want to play on a Tuesday or Wednesday. You know what I mean? If you're like an
Right.
ACC team, right? That's just the way they are. So we get to play them on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And honestly, it's we play them tough, and then it gets to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th innings, whatever. And they just keep rolling out guys. I think that would be one thing. You, the head coach, obviously, you want them as good as starting pitching as possible. But the back end, if you can place it, piece it together from the back end going forward, I think that's what they do. The 7th, 8th, 9th, every time we play them for almost, this will be even this year. I think it's going to be the 3rd year. We're going to be in the game, and then all of a sudden they're going to roll out guys that are going to be better than the guy that started the game. And you're just, okay, and it just creates the opportunity that you have to create early in the game is, you have to do it so much more. And you have to try to score as much as you can, just because I think when they get to the later innings, they're going to roll out their better arms. That's it. I guess that's just my opinion. So looking forward to playing them again and looking forward to be, like a close game. And hopefully we just got to find a way to, have a scoreboard, say us, obviously the 6th, 7th inning.
That's a good pull. That really has become their identity. That's really good. Curbs, go ahead.
Yeah, when I played at USD, every time we would play St. Mary's, it was always tough. And in our conference, you play a lot of teams that, on paper you don't have a ton of talent, but they're tough teams and they know how to play baseball the right way. And Valenzuela was a coach at St. Mary's when we played them. He was at USD, and I was at Long Beach State. Every time we played, it was just they weren't afraid of us, right? They would come in at our own place, and they would come in and act like, not that they act like they would own it. They'd be like, okay, these guys are ready to play. And anytime you play those teams, it's just you have that feeling, all right, this is a game, this is going to be close. And they're just pesky every time they had a guy up. It's like, okay, this guy might went off the wall, or this guy might bunt. They knew how to play the game the right way. And it was funny, they got better as my 3 years at USD went on, right? So freshman year they were okay, sophomore year they got better, junior year they were, and they always improved. It's like every time you play them, it's like they were a better team than the last time you played them. So if you play them later on in the year in the tournament, you're like, oh, okay, this team's better than they were when we first played them earlier in the conference. And I think anytime you do see those teams that get better as the year goes on, that's a testament to good coaching and good players that just they understand, the work ethic, what it takes to continually improve. And I think that's an aspect of a really good team.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great pull. Those Eric Valenzuela teams, they're going to play with an edge, and the talent level is going to rise because he can really recruit. That's a good call. Fuj, go ahead.
So I think I'm actually going to give a plug to a fellow NAI school.
Do it.
Clark University in Dubuque, Iowa. For everybody not informed, NAI baseball, there are re-entry rules. There's courtesy runners. It's a little bit of the Wild West. And we played them a lot. They were about an hour north of us. The one thing that stood out about Coach Spain's teams were every single time that there was a different string to be pulled or, a substitution to be made, it seemed like the player that he inserted, that moment or that role fit that player's strengths to a T. Didn't matter who they were playing. It was, the adage of playing against the baseball. He really, really understood the strengths of each of his players. I think that's something that if I'm a head coach one day, I really want to take with me.
Oh, that's great. Go ahead, Holden.
For me, it's Coastal Carolina. I think that they're a very scrappy team. On paper, they might not be the best team, but you'll be up 5-0 in the third, and all of a sudden they put an 8 spot on you or something like that. They were really scrappy when we played them. They had just come off the national championship, but they were well coached and they knew how to play baseball. They knew they had the right amount of power guys, the right amount of speed. They just kind of did everything right. And at the end of the day, you'd look up at the scoreboard and be like, oh, wow, they're up 8 now when you think you had the game in the bag. But yeah, we played them twice in midweeks, and those were some challenging midweek games. So, but fun. They're a really good team.
Great call. And you know, it's funny, like Coach Gilmore, like Gary Gilmore's not going to coach a team that doesn't play with a lot of life. Like he's so passionate. Yeah, it's so good.
They had a lot of swagger. I'll say that.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, boys, let's do a rapid fire. I want to try to stay as close to an hour as we can. So rapid fire, you're going for your next job. I'm the person making the hire. Give me the 3 people you want me to call. You don't have to go into detail on them necessarily, but give me who they are and where they're, what their affiliation is. But Shu, I'm going to come back to you. Let's do rapid fire on this. You're going for your next job. Who are your 3 calls that you want me to make?
Justin Hare, the head coach at Campbell, Chris Marks, the pitching coach at Purdue, and Tim Corbin, the head coach at Vanderbilt.
Love it. Josh, go ahead.
Carl Kuhn at Virginia. As a personal reference was John Ratzloff was a baseball guy around the Midwest. And I'd say Bryant Drent was a former coach of mine, a good friend and a good mentor as well.
Where's Brian Drench from? Is he from the upper Midwest?
He's from Sioux City, Iowa, up on the Midwest as well. Yep.
Very cool. Go ahead, Curbs.
Brock Ungerich, our head coach at USD. Rich Hill, the head coach at the University of San Diego. And then my third one is my manager in low A ball, Holbert Cabrera. He played in the big leagues for 15 years. He's a good mentor of mine.
Curbs, Coach Hill going to Hawaii, like that's an 11 out of 10 fit. Like I am so pumped for Coach Hill to be in Hawaii. Like that is awesome. Like awesome, all caps.
Yep, that's the one spot he would go.
Oh, so great. I'm so
Yep.
pumped. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Fuj, go ahead.
Travis Jansen, head coach at Austin Peay. Kainoa Correa, bench coach for the San Francisco Giants. And Jack Dom, head coach at Mount Mercy University.
Oh, that's the great list. Well done, Fuj. Go ahead, Holden.
Grant Achilles, head coach at Brown. I do Matt Blake, the New York Yankees pitching coach, and then Chris Tilton, who's the pitching coach at Brown.
And I'm going to call Matt Hobbs just for fun.
And
So
Matt, yes, I would do Matt Hobbs as well.
Matt Hobbs is your +1.
Yeah, you can throw in Tom Walter too.
That's great. We guys all probably have 6 people you want me to call, so that's great. Boys, well done. That was so fun. Gosh, this happens every time. The hour goes like 20 seconds. But this was fun. I really appreciated getting to know you. We've got a text thread going. I want you to stay in touch. I'm going to stay in touch with you guys. One of the things I'm going to do when we hang up is I'm going to put some books and podcasts that I'm really into on the thread. I want you guys to do the same things that you're leaning into that are helping you grow as a coach and a leader. But really appreciate this, especially doing it the day after Christmas. But it was fun. It was so fun. I want to say thanks again to our friends at Netting Pros, our presenting sponsor here. Couldn't do this without them. They were so good to college baseball. Want to encourage everyone to support them. So that is it. Episode 12 is in the books, and we're going to keep going. We got every Sunday going into January. We'll be here next Sunday as well. So appreciate all the listeners. And that's it. We will catch you next Sunday night. Take care, boys.